baby anymore.
No, he's adult-like.
He's a grown man, but he's like 24. I don't know if this is like 17, 18.
Time to start. We have 2 minutes.
1 minute. 1 minute. You want me to go baby now?
Sure. Go ahead.
Very well done. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Please take your seats and silence your phones. And if you're on Zoom, please mute your microphone. We're having the announcements first before the service starts. So if you want to submit an announcement to be read, please write it on a slip of paper, and a greeter will collect it. Raise your hand if you need something to write on, or if you have a written announcement ready to collect. If you're on Zoom, put the announcement in the chat box at this time. There are always announcements on the back of your printed order of service, and we'll try not to repeat those verbally. The same announcements are in the email that goes out every Sunday morning, and there may be some extra ones in the email that didn't make it on the printed sheet. So if anybody has any announcements, go ahead and raise your hand and pass them up to the ushers. Any announcements in Zoom? Perfect. It's off my shoulder. If you're a newcomer this morning, we'd like to extend a special welcome to you. We're so glad you're here. If you'd like to know more about what's going on at the fellowship 7 days a week, please give us your email address. If you're here at the fellowship, you can fill out the blue welcome card and leave it on your chair or give it to our greeter. If you're online, go to the link in the chat and fill out our welcome card. We hope you'll stay here for coffee, potluck, and conversation after the service so we can get to know each other better. Or stay online for a brief chat on Zoom. We'll just leave the Zoom room open for any who want to stay and chat. That concludes our announcements. Now let's center ourselves with the music of our prelude. Thank you, Candy and Marty. Welcome to the Carbondale Unitarian Fellowship, located on the unceded traditional lands of the first people of present-day Southern Illinois, the Miami, Osage, Kaskaskia, and Kickapoo. The fellowship is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, sharing the good news of Unitarian Universalism with folks throughout the river region. Our good news is a message of love, freedom, reason, respect, and justice as the basis for religious community. I'm Bill. I'm your catalyst. I'm on the welcoming congregation and healthy congregations teams. I'm also trained to provide the Our Whole Lives Sexuality training. But this morning, I'm your Sunday service facilitator. We are a congregation of open minds and hearts, all ages, all colors, all genders, all abilities, all kinds of wealth, all kinds of love. Now I invite those of us who are online to select gallery view so that we can wave to each other, connecting our congregation over space. Let's start by lighting our chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Our chalice lighting reading this morning is an expansion on the Four Freedoms by Darren Walker. So a little background. Apparently, President Franklin Roosevelt's annual message to the US Congress in 1941 was to become known as his Four Freedoms speech. In short, his four freedoms were freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. Darrell Walker, president of the nonprofit organization, the Ford Foundation, argues that each of those freedoms contains a corresponding responsibility. So my chalice lighting reading is by Darren Walker. With the freedom of speech comes a responsibility to listen. With the freedom of belief comes a responsibility to accept. With the freedom from want comes a responsibility to serve. And with the freedom from fear comes a responsibility to act. Our chalice is lit. Now with intention, Claire puts a pebble in the bowl of water, letting it ripple out beyond our knowing. All are invited to do the same here at the fellowship or at home to mark a joy, sorrow, or any other feeling you have during the musical parts of the service. A time for personal milestones of emotional and spiritual significance. Some of us come today with heavy hearts. We open our hearts to you. Will those who have a deep personal concern or sorrow, please come forward, or if you're on Zoom, raise your hand and you will be recognized. Some of us come today.
I'm Candy Davis, and I'm sorry to be coming up here so many weeks in a row with a sorrow. But this has been a rough month for John and me. Friday, he just got the last of his top teeth removed, and he's back on painkillers and can't eat very well, and that's a big concern for me. So please keep John in your thoughts.
Thanks, Candy.
Marty Merrill, I'll just be very brief. There's something that's been on our mind since yesterday that is a very difficult situation. It's we've had such a great, deep political divide in our country, and I'm afraid that what happened yesterday could only deepen that. So let's hope for the best.
Thank you for that. Some of us come today with hearts filled with joy. We celebrate with you. Will those who have a deep personal joy please come forward or raise your hand if you're on Zoom?
Hi, I'm Joyce Shepherd, and I have a couple of joys. One is that my middle sister, who has been together with her partner for 13 years, gave us 3 weeks' notice that she's getting married. So, or they're getting married. And so I'm like trying to scramble, trying to figure out how I can get down to Florida in a few weeks. So if I'm not here, that's where I'll be. And another one is our younger son, Tim, just got engaged. So we're excited about that. Don't know when that wedding will be. And then the last one is my husband, Gary, who's here today joining us. Tomorrow is his birthday.
Thanks, Joyce. Perfect.
You know who I am. Right? I wanted to balance the last with a little bit of joy that I experienced yesterday. I'm a coordinator over at John A. Logan in their highway construction careers training program. And every summer we have a program for 6 weeks where we help the inmates there get a taste of a lot of different construction trades, and gives them a chance to learn a few things and hopefully improve their self-confidence and potential moving forward. Yesterday was their graduation, and great bunch of students. They behave very well, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it was really inspiring to see these people see a different future ahead of them. Thank you.
For all the sorrows and joys shared aloud or kept silent in our hearts, we've lit candles, and now we'll observe a moment of silence. Now, please join me in singing hymn number 148, Let Freedom Span Both East and West. Lyrics are on screen. 1 second. Not that one. Look great. So it's the gray hymnal number 148. I think we stand, yes. So once we get our AV straightened out, you guys, no worries. We can all stand as mind and body allow. All right. So we'll hear it played through once, and then we'll start. AV team, are you ready? Well, it'll give me a moment to get to it myself. No problem. All right. Yep. Thank you. This month's offering recipient is UUANI. I'm here to tell you a little bit about them. It's also a great opportunity for me to tell you about my role as the CUF Catalyst. The Catalyst role was created by UUANI to help congregations promote our social justice initiatives and to help members find ways they can get involved in social justice programs. For full disclosure, I am incentivized by being paid a stipend for my work. You will see me staffing tables after Sunday service. I welcome you to stop by and ask me about UUANI's work. UUANI stands for Unitarian Universalist Advocacy Network of Illinois. It's our statewide organization focusing on social justice issues. UUANI provides opportunities for local congregations to affect change at the state level through legislation. We seek progressive policies that address issues affecting people at risk and marginalized communities. For example, criminal justice, immigration systems, and climate change. You're likely familiar with some of our initiatives, like Vote Love, which sponsors voter registration campaigns and encourages people to vote. UUANI also helps CUF organize advocacy days, where we'll travel to Springfield to meet with our legislators to advocate for social justice issues such as environmental justice and reproductive rights. UUANI's efforts have helped win marriage equality in Illinois, pass a referendum to raise minimum wage, and the passage of the Future Energy Jobs Act. We continue to work to transform our criminal justice system and other issues affecting our communities. UUANI is supported by contributions from individuals and congregations. In our fellowship, we share so many things: time, efforts, talents, spirit, and money. We share with this fellowship and for the needs of the fellowship, but we also share with our greater community beyond these walls. You may contribute to the fellowship or to our social action offering recipient for July, which is UUANI. Information about UUANI is in your order of service. Checks should be made payable to CUF, and you can also donate online via PayPal. The link is in the chat and in your order of service. Use the check memo area or the note area in PayPal if you wish to specify a contribution to UUANI. Also, remember that your spare change makes a difference. All coins collected during the offering are sent to the UUA Annual Program Fund, which provides important resources to UU congregations like CUF. Your contributions in all forms are gratefully received. Please join me now in our unison offering reading printed in your order of service and on screen. This is when you need a teenager. Oh, there it is. Freely have we received of gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. Our theme this month is freedom, and when I was asked to be a facilitator, I wanted to do a reading that sort of summed up kind of my feelings about freedom in our current political climate, which kind of went in a really dark direction very quickly. Last week I spoke with Keaton, and Keaton suggested to me that why he came to service here was for the sort of spiritual enlightenment. And I really appreciated those words because that forced me to reevaluate what my reading would be today. Hopefully I still touch on the things of freedom, but I decided to sort of focus on some sort of local folks who Todd and I kind of have a close association with. So my reading this morning is an excerpt from The Discovery of Discovery by Charles Tinney. Todd and I bought a house on Tinney Drive when we moved here about 3 years ago. I later learned that the house was built by Charles Tinney, who was influential in the development of SIU. His 42 years of service in the university between 1931 and 1973, he wore many hats and received more academic and administrative appointments than possibly any other individual in the university's history. I did some research on Dr. Tinney and discovered that he wrote a book that was published after his death. The book is titled The Discovery of Discovery. My reading today is an excerpt from his book. It's titled Freedom. A society sensitive to the needs of its creative people is necessarily an open society. Both individually and collectively, its citizens will tolerate a great deal of original or even eccentric behavior, because they feel strongly that such behavior is often a seedbed in which discovery germinates. Not all originality is productive, but a discoverer has the right to fail as well as to succeed. And since no one can determine the outcome in advance, he requires a climate of freedom, if not encouragement. The discoverer is usually concerned with possible new ways of doing things, ways not already fixed or approved. He must have time to consider and reconsider his options. He must carry on in an atmosphere of leisure. He must be able to move at will from one possibility to another. It is therefore unfortunate that some societies are insensible to the circumstances in which discovery withers or flourishes. A restrictive society simply cuts down its own possibilities for advancement. At times, it may seem to respond to forcing, as did Hitler's Germany, but eventually it loses its Lise Mittners and Thomas Manns, and with them, much of its creative potential. And now Claire Kilman will speak to us about freedom and responsibility.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, thank you. That was nice. Good. Oftentimes when I step up to a podium, I feel like I kind of have to preface something. Today, I'm prefacing that I am expressing what are mostly my own thoughts, which are just collections of others' thoughts before me, all woven into a tapestry, my own. And if there are any errors, snagged threads, or disagreeable sentiments, I welcome more thoughts to be added. And I would invite you all after the service, whenever you have time, to share your thoughts on what I have to say with me, and I welcome them. I'm starting off with an origin story of sorts. I got my start in politics through the grassroots organizing effort that was called the Carbondale Spring, more or less 6 years ago. It was a set of solutions to Carbondale's specific and unique problems, steeped in the philosophical likenesses of characters like Murray Bookchin and Giorgio Agamben, journals like Tikkun, movements like the Arab Spring, after which it's named, and the Gilets jaunes protests in France, at the time, the Yellow Vest protests. Concepts like subsidiarity from Catholicism, a blend of the Prout economic theory from tantric yogis in India and the economic modeling of Mondragon, Spain. This effort, which started as 4 people in a room with a hodgepodge of ideas, took on an array of adherents from all walks of life, both in and out of Carbondale. I watched this dream of a better world, one where everyone could build a future worth living in, start to change people. The dream and its achievement and realizing a more liberated human condition here in our town that we all obviously so longed for had a measurable impact on that group's psychology and on the personal, emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual growth of people who were involved in it. To make any gain toward that liberated system of relationships we were striving for was going to take a lot of work. It would require of us a casting off of bad habits, of old ways, of reactionary tendencies. It would take regular meetings for years on end, crowdfunding, fundraising, DIYing, and the labor of several consultants, all freely given over the span of years, to put even one sustainable pilot program on the ground. That's a lot of commitment and discipline. Years of consistent full-time hard work by about 24 individuals to build a better, more liberated system of relating to one another as humans, to what small degree we were even able. And what foundations did get laid, their sustenance relied on even more discipline to wind up maintaining. Moving the needle toward freedom is not for the faint of heart, nor the lazy, nor the undisciplined. In truth, this movement took many people who, under our current system of relationships, economic, social, in a sort of broad spectrum, top-down, global, capitalistic frame of relationships, took those who felt lost under that and overburdened, incapable, and unwanted. And by virtue of it giving them hope for a better world, and through their own work to see that world accomplished in some small part on the ground beneath their feet, wound up creating a cohesive set of units, people who were operating in concert toward a shared goal, in alignment. That's the end of that story. In Ananda Marga, there's a saying, quote, "Within the human being, there is a thirst for limitlessness. As humans, we yearn for the throwing off of our shackles, unchaining our potential and releasing ourselves from what ties us, prevents us from unlimited reach. And in this, there can develop a chronic problem within the human condition. In the Western conception of personal freedom, imagined as an absence of limitation on what one can do, there's a widening open of the space of what becomes possible. And as we know, what is contained within the human being are all manner of behaviors with a whole range of potential outcomes, as great and as terrible as our choice, orientation, and context allows. I did have to modify portions of this after yesterday. Yesterday being one of those defining moments where all before becomes history and all becomes after is fundamentally recontextualized. When we give ourselves the gift of freedom as a concept like personal liberty, and conceive of its practical application as a lack of restraint upon which no infringement will be borne, we can run afoul of our own shadow and veer into darker impulses. Who among us can limit the freedom of one to pollute, pillage, and exploit? Who can infringe upon the liberty to treat one another poorly? Who can be an impediment to the freedom to do nothing while the world burns and your neighbor suffers? When we're given the gift of a liberating freedom and an expansion of options without guardrails, we, especially as groups, can become much less mature. In fact, I might go so far as to say we may be living through an illustrative period on this point, within which our unprecedented freedom to do, exemplified by the ideal of rugged American individualism is becoming its own cure. There's an adage, the best cure for high prices is high prices. Our freedom to do if left unchecked can become its own death knell. Our tendency to choose the most convenient and expedient of options, prioritizing short-term gains instead of long-term stability. Our unparalleled ability to justify the maintenance of violent, fear-based conditions imposed on our own people and extended to the globe at large, and our capacity to exploit the resources of our planet to the extent we cut off our own life support, are all illustrations of just how freedom, when left unchecked, will always breed iniquity. I am personally a believer in the right of the individual to determine the course of their own destiny. I couldn't be standing here before you as me if that were not the case. And that the charting of their own course cannot be feasibly altered without much frustration, coercion, and strife by means of an authority imposing restraint. Instead, I might advocate that it is the responsibility and role of the individual, born naturally free, to make all choice available to them, to impose their own restraints. That their freedom is not infringed at the juncture of personal liberty and discipline, but bought by it. It is their will toward the highest order of good, only ever achievable by your work and your toil, that will thread the needle of possibility, ensuring it is pointed upward toward glory and a life honorably lived. Freedom requires more order, not less. It means more responsibility, not less restraint. It means adopting a comfort in being accountable for your actions and how they impact the course and flow of our collective journey. It means recognizing a deep sense of obligation in your responsibilities as a living, breathing human being, taking no day and no choice for granted. By our discipline only then can we truly and eternally find the strength to bend the long moral arc of the universe toward freedom, liberty, and justice for all. I'd like to bless this congregation as I close out here by praying that this congregation become a vessel for a divine and transcendent will to be done, that we might become an extension of that will's grace here on earth, ordering our steps toward a higher purpose, using us as an instrument its hands guide to bring about what peacemaking and liberating is necessary to achieve that highest order of good. Amen.
Okay, this last song that we're going to do is a sing-along, and I'll help you by giving you the first line of each verse. It's a very simple song. We shall not be moved by Mavis Staples.
I recognize the right away, so join the right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy and Marty. Thanks to Claire and everyone who helped with this service, including everyone present here and with us on Zoom. Please rise in body or spirit for the blessing. So I'm keeping with my sort of Charles Tenney theme. My blessing was written by Charles Tenney. Apparently it's on the wall of the Morris Library. To exalt beauty in God, in nature, and in art, teaching how to love the best, but keep the human touch. To advance learning in all lines of truth, wherever they may lead, showing how to think rather than what to think, assisting the powers of the mind in their self-development. To forward ideas and ideals in our democracy, inspiring respect for others as for ourselves, ever promoting freedom with responsibility. To become a center of order and light, that knowledge may lead to understanding and understanding to wisdom. Amen. Go in peace with love, freedom, and justice. Sorry. I don't know what we
We did it. We did it. Good job. Go in peace with love, freedom. I didn't bring my glasses. There it is.
Yes, and it doesn't say that we do that together, but it makes more sense when we do it together. Yeah. Should have practiced that.
That's
one.
okay.
To win all around. Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I did okay?
Nice. You did really well.
Good.
Yeah, it was very, well, it made you think.
Well, that's the point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
It's a thing.
Yeah, good job.